Good morning, everybody. I'm Gazette Executive Editor Zack Kucharski. I'd like to welcome you to Iowa Ideas and to Cedar Rapids for those of you who are visiting us from other areas within the state and from beyond. On behalf of the employee-owned Gazette, as well as our parent company, Foliance, thank you for making time. We know there are many places you can spend your time. Thank you for coming and joining us today. This is our second annual conference. It's a big day for us. I'm a little nervous. I'll calm down. But this is an important project for the Gazette in a lot of ways. We are able to connect with the community better. We want to drive deeper and more engaging conversations on topics that we should all care about. And so this is a project that involves every area of our company, and I thank the team for all of their work in putting this together and the late additions and changes that we make. It's also our 135th anniversary as an organization, and so that's a big deal, and we're proud of that. Thank you. I'm going to start with some of the thank yous to our sponsors, because without their support, we could not do this. It's critical in making this happen. And so our title sponsor, UFG, to our gold sponsors, ITC and Van Meter, our silver sponsor, Iowa Economic Development Authority, the Employee Resource Group Consortium, also known as ERGC, to our bronze sponsors, Rockwell Collins and Alliant Energy, and to our network break sponsor, Next Bank. There are many other sponsors who are on the screens here, and we thank them for their support, and we'll be sharing those messages throughout the day. A little bit about our title sponsor, UFG. Casey, you can come up. UFG is a publicly traded multi-billion-dollar company, more than 70 years of knowledge and experience providing commercial and personal insurance for individuals, families, homes, and businesses. UFG sells through more than 1,200 independent agencies in 43 states and the District of Columbia. In 2017, UFG was named one of America's 50 most trustworthy financial companies by Forbes for the 4th consecutive year. Their campus is really taking shape downtown here. It's beautiful to see, and I would imagine the employees are excited for that as well. And so here to join us is Casey Prince, Marketing Communications Manager for UFG.
Thank you, Zach. I am Casey Prince with UFG in our corporate marketing department, and we actually have a number of other employees here today. So we're not just supporting the event, but we're participating in a big way. And we're just very proud to support the communities in which we work, whether it's charitable initiatives, programs, or events like this. And as Zach mentioned, Cedar Rapids is home for us. If you don't know, UFG founded in Cedar Rapids more than 70 years ago. And as he mentioned, our downtown campus is right over here. It's a little over a block away, and it's more than a full city block in size and growing. Certainly there are selfless reasons for us to support events like Iowa Ideas, but there are selfish ones too. We are a growing company, and we absolutely want to be in a room like this where there are thoughtful, smart people that are engaged professionally and engaged in their communities. And so when the time is right to be looking for options for your future, make sure you're checking our career page and encouraging others to do so. In addition to giving back through community support and sponsorship, we also have a public service campaign going on right now. We're in the insurance industry, and one very devastating epidemic right now is distracted driving. And our Worth It campaign, tagline, life is worth it, distracted driving is not. You can learn more about our Worth It campaign at the booth out in the foyer, and I encourage you to stop and chat with employees there. It's amazing the things that we do every day that put ourselves and our loved ones in danger when we're behind the wheel, and it's an important thing to learn a little bit more about, and it takes just a moment to think about what's worth it to you and then pledge with us to drive distraction free. So that's it from me. Thank you again for being here. UFG Insurance, very proud to support this event and be affiliated with the Gazette, who's been in this community even longer than us. So thank you, and have a wonderful day or two with Iowa Ideas.
Thank you, Casey. The Iowa Ideas Conference is a little bit different than some of the conferences. We have a lot going on. There are more than 60 sessions across a wide variety of topics. I get asked all the time, why do you try and do all of these different topics in such a short period of time? And we feel that a lot of the events that we go to are really singular focused on one particular topic. But there's a lot of enrichment that happens when folks can learn across subject areas, learn something new. And so it's important to us to have all of these tracks going on simultaneously. One of the things that's been fun as we've done this project is we went into it assuming a lot of folks knew each other. It's also an opportunity for us not only to get connected to the communities that we cover across this area and across the state, but also to make some of those connections and to have some of those conversations happen in a live theater-friendly kind of way. And so it's fun for us. And so we encourage you as you're going through the day, you hop across tracks. You don't have to stay in the single one. You can hop into a session that you would like. Any of them are open to you, and so enjoy that. A couple housekeeping things. There is Wi-Fi. So if you want to join, the network is CR Meeting, and then the password is Ideas18, and that will get you onto the Wi-Fi network. Also, the full conference schedule is available on the app. I noticed the copy editing side of me. There's a quite small typo on the cards that you have. It's the Attendify app. And so it's Attendify, and if you search for Iowa Ideas, then you'll get the full schedule, the speakers, as well as there's some handouts and things uploaded in there as well. For questions, we're doing something a little bit different this year. The questions can be asked through the app. There's, from the menu of the app, there's Ask a Question, and then you just choose the track that you're in. And you can ask your question. And so the moderators of each session will try and intersperse those across the session and work those in. And so if you don't want to go from within the app, you can also go to slido.com, it's SLIDO.com, and then type in Iowa Ideas 2018 in the event code space and ask your questions that way. So that allows us to kind of have live interactive conversation. I would encourage you to ask questions. We'll get them up there and we'll be working those into all of the sessions. Two partners have joined us as part of the Iowa Ideas initiative this year. And so first, the Next Gen Summit is a track that's really looking at, it's for young professionals looking at some of the individual development issues, as well as working together to explore the issues that impact the workforce. And so that is one of the tracks that we've joined. The second partnership that we've enacted this year is with Diversity Forum. The organizers of Diversity Forum for years have been bringing people from around the region together to talk about in the spirit of diversity and inclusion. And so we're excited to have them as a track this year as well. The Diversity Forum, I'm going to do a quick morning exercise here. We'll begin their track with Gloria Cotton from Inquest Consulting. Gloria travels around and has been leading organizations and individuals for more than 25 years on topics of understanding varying perspectives, unconscious bias, as well as building networks. And so when we were working with Gloria in putting the programming together for the Diversity Forum, we realized that she really hasn't a way of helping us understand how to listen to people that are maybe we don't necessarily always hear and connect with. And so hearing each other, even when we have differing ideas, which is what Iowa Ideas is about, it's important that we can at least hear and understand each other. And so Gloria's been an inspiring force in the planning of this, and I'd like to welcome her to the stage now.
Just 1 second. Yay. Good morning. Oh, that's so pitiful. Good morning. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Part of my delicious diversity is I'm an extrovert. How many people are extroverts in the room? Raise your hand, please. Yes, hello, my brothers and sisters. We need to know, for the introverts, we need to know you're alive. Okay, so I'm going to be asking for some feedback. This is not just me talking to you. It's going to be you involved. Also, for the introverts, please know that extroverts, part of our thinking process is to talk. It's not meant to be golden and finished. When it comes out, it's in process. Extroverted people, am I misrepresenting us? No. Introverted people are going crazy because they think that it's finished, because that's what they do. The work that we're doing externally, they're doing internally. And so they're thinking, they're getting whiplash. What? But I thought you said, but I thought you said, but I thought you said. So introverted people, this is some of the reason why there's a little bit of disharmony between people, just because of the way we present, just because of the way we think. I'd like to encourage and invite you, as you're going through this wonderful forum today and tomorrow, to think about what are the things that draw you and the men and women you're privileged to serve, the men and women you're privileged to work with. What makes it easy for you and them to feel, and I'd like you to write or record these 4 words, most important words for me as a D&I professional. People want to feel welcomed, valued, respected, and heard. Please, please, capture those some kind of way. Lock it into your brain, write it down, use a pen, blood, what? No, not blood, something. This is what people want to feel as they are talking with you, when they're agreeing, when they're disagreeing with you. And when they don't, then somehow it begins to evolve into people feeling fear, frustration, and fatigue. The 3 F's. Fear, frustration, and fatigue. And no matter how strategic you have been, no matter your delicious intention, if people are operating from fear, they're not going to be able to bring all of their delicious diversity to the fore. They're going to be using their innovative juices to learn to survive. How can they help the company thrive when I'm trying to live here? And that's what it feels like. So, how many leaders do we have in the room? Everybody raise your hand. Because if you're here, you're a leader. Either position power or personal power or both. So the question is, what can you gather from our time together today and tomorrow that will help you use that power to create that environment between and amongst people where trust is built, where people are not only willing, but they'll follow through with delivery on what's in the highest good of everyone, when they're in agreement and when they're in disagreement. Is that an easy thing to do? What you think? What you think? Is that easy? Didn't I say I need you to talk to me? Is that an easy thing to do or not? Okay, last time lights were shining in my face like this, I was Beth, in Porgy and Beth on stage, I tell you. Okay, so I need sunglasses. I'd be so cool with sunglasses. Okay, so that's not easy. Let's look at one of the reasons it's not so easy. How many people are experiencing, aware of change in our nation? Raise your hand. Just a little bit. T19. How about change right here in Iowa? How about change in your organization? How about change in your house? How about changing you? It's everywhere, right? It's everywhere. Okay, let's do a little exercise. So I need everybody to partner up with somebody at your table, nobody alone. So identify a partner real quick. Is there anybody alone? Anybody alone? We've been friendly. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to stand if you can. If there's someone who cannot stand, stay seated. But otherwise, everybody else stand up. How many more minutes I got? I'm good? Okay. All right. So part of my delicious diversity, I'm a sicko time person, so I want to stay to the time. Okay. So here's what I'd like you to do. Look at your partner carefully, up and down. No touching. No sexual harassment charges right here. Look at them. Look at them. Look at them. What are they wearing? What do they look like? What do they have on? Okay, you don't have to discuss it. Just look at them. Some people describing for people. I love it. Okay, now turn your back to your partner. Turn your back to your partner. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and I'm going to count it. To change 3 things about yourself. To change 3 things about yourself. 30 seconds, go. 30, 29, 28, 27, 49, 67, 5,295. 9 3/4, yay. 6, 7, 8, oh, wrong way. 4, 3, 2, 1. Whatever you got, that's good. All right. Please turn around, face your partner. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Take turns describing what you notice your partner changed. Tell your partner. All right, now the other partner, tell the other partner. This is what I noticed you changed. Okay, now first partner, tell the person how wrong or right they were. Tell them what you really changed. And when you're done, the second partner, tell them, then sit on down. Thank you. 30 seconds. This is not the greatest story ever told. It's just a little quick. How many people you discovered everything your partner changed? How many people? Show of hands. How many people missed some things that your partner changed? How many people, when you changed something, you acquired something? You picked something up. Stand on up if you acquired something. 2 people, 3 people, and 4 people. Let's give these people a round of applause. Sit on down. How many people just moved some things? I didn't take it off. I just moved some things. Stand on up. Those of you who move. Yeah, let's hear. Celebration. Celebration. Sit on down. How many people lost something? You took something off. Stand on up. Stand on up. Stand on up. Do y'all see the majority of people lost something? Sit on down. So did we celebrate these people? Let's do it again. So I asked y'all if you had noticed that there was change going on. Yes, everywhere. Everywhere. Intergalactic change we got going on. The majority of times, and there's this myth out here that people hate change. What a lie. People love change when what? Say what? When it's good. Somebody say when it feels good to them. I love it. They love it when, and if they don't know, or if they think they're going to be hurt some kind of way, that's when they resist. Most people think of change as I'm losing something. It doesn't feel good for me or someone or something important to me. As we're going through all this change in our nation, in our state, in our region, I'm from Chicago, so I'm in y'all's family. As we're going through it in our organizations, in our families, within ourselves, start thinking about during this forum, this conference this week, or today and tomorrow, what can I do so people can understand the benefit of the changes we're going through? What can we do so people will understand inclusion is this and that, not this or that? It's this and that, not this or that. People are terrified that they used to be in power, now I got to share that power, or I've got to lose the power. Somehow it's going to impact me negatively. And y'all, we've got to learn to start talking about inclusion in a way that does not promote and foster exclusion. Having one group, an additional group of people who are terrified with change, is not going to mitigate the people who have been terrified for so long. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? Hello? Yes. So we have got to start telling the truth. The latest group of people who feel excluded, think about who comes to mind. Conservatives feeling, Christians, white men feeling they do not belong. I don't know how to be successful with all these changes. Let's help them. Let's help them see it's this and that. It's an expansion. It's sharing. Instead of you are going to be stripped of everything you've had in your past. How many people would volunteer for that? To lose every privilege. See, I love privilege. How many people think privilege sucks? See, it's not that the problem is I want to take your privilege because I've had none. Or I think I've had plenty of privilege in my life, okay? I'm just saying. So recognizing the privilege you have had, you haven't had, why you haven't had it, what can you do to expand that appropriately and create that environment, those 4 things where people feel welcomed, valued, respected, heard, then they don't fight so much when they don't have the same level of privilege. I'll just leave you with this. I travel all the time. This is a slow week. For me, I'm only in one city, and I drove. Usually I'm commuting by plane. So people are like, oh, it's so glamorous that you travel. No, boo, I'm working. That is not glamour, baby. I mean, I'm glamorous, but let's not get it twisted. So there are privileges that come with that. I'm upgraded to first class, as queens should be, quite often. But there, I'm a diamond member here, a gold member there. There are perks that come along with this. I'm working for that stuff. What can we do so we can make it available to everyone and then equip them with the work that they have to do? Start thinking about that as leaders. What are you currently doing? What can you start doing? So everyone feels welcome, what? Valued, respected. I love you right now. And they're not operating from fear, frustration, and fatigue. If you will keep those things in mind as we are working together to explore and learn and share with one another today and tomorrow, I guarantee you, I promise you, you'll be so much better leaders and human beings in your companies, in your communities, in your homes. Thank you so much. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. If you'd like to hear more, Gloria is going to give her keynote in the room right next door. It's right through that wall, literally, in Exhibit Hall B, and in the 9 o'clock panel. For all conference attendees, we're going to get going in the sessions that start at 9 o'clock. Just one more mention of the app. That's where we're updating things throughout the day, is Attendify. There will be volunteers posted at the home base, which is at the registration area where you came in. They will be there throughout the day. And for the morning sessions this morning, all of them are located in the hotel, except for the policy track, which I'll be running off to, which is at TCR in the basement at Grandin Studio across the street. The first sessions begin promptly at 9. Enjoy the conference, and we'll see you at lunch. Thanks.
Good afternoon and welcome to Iowa Ideas. My name is Elizabeth Kimmel and I am the event manager for the Gazette. Thank you all for coming. I wanted to take a couple minutes to let you know about our activities this evening. There are 3 activities to choose from. The first one is Pints and Politics, which will be over at Theater Cedar Rapids across the street. 5 o'clock is social time. 5:30 is when the program begins and it will end about 7 p.m. We also have the Next Gen Summit Social, which is at a surprise location to be announced around 3:30 today. Excuse me. You can look at your app on the phone, and you'll be able to find where that location is when they announce it at 3:30. That will go from 5 to 7 as well. And then our last option is the Fuse workout. And I'm going to ask Lindsay Olson to take a step up onto the stage. Lindsay is with Fuse and United Fire Group, and she will talk a little bit more about that program.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hopefully all of you are enjoying your afternoon. We're really excited to offer kind of an outside of the box option this evening for the social aspect of the conference. We're gonna offer a workout this evening. My name is Lindsay Olson. I'm the Corporate Wellness and Fitness Director for United Fire Group. We're really invested in the employees, the health and fitness of the employees at United Fire, and we're very excited about being at the forefront with some really interesting things when it comes to fitness in the community. We're really dedicated to making sure our employees are happy, healthy, and well, and that's really our focus, and we want the community to really see that and be a part of it. So I started Fuse Fitness with a good childhood friend of mine who I grew up with, Riley Mullane. He's not here right now. But he is one of the most talented DJs in the corridor, and so we are going to bring to you tonight an option to move and groove and to work out to live music and a live DJ this evening. The workout consists of body weight movements, plyometrics, some cardio. It's really for anyone. I know you're thinking, if there's an option to go have a cocktail and you're asking me to work out, you must be crazy. I really encourage you to try it. Grab a sweat towel, a water bottle, change clothes, step outside of your comfort zone and join us tonight. We're going to be in Exhibit Hall A. It's from 5:15 to 6 p.m. It's a workout for anyone, any level, and we're just trying to get the community to move and to just support one another in those wellness efforts. In your packet, you also have a free Fuse session. There's a card in your packets that you receive for the conference. So I encourage you to check out a Fuse session wherever we're located. We have a Facebook page and also an Instagram page that has our schedule for our fall season. We are at the McGrath Amphitheater every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. This is $10 for the public. We also offer punch cards as well that take that price down to $5 a session. We're excited to be a part of this. You have to experience this workout. It's like nothing you've ever done before. The music is amazing. If you just want to show up and dance with us the whole time, you can too. We're excited to see you tonight at 5:15 in Exhibit Hall A. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody, again. I'm Zack Kucharski, the Executive Editor at the Gazette. On behalf of the team at the Gazette and the employee-owned Foliants, we welcome you and thank you for taking time with us today. Just a couple of housekeeping things as you continue to eat and to visit. We'll do our keynote in a couple minutes here. Wanted to say thank you again to our sponsors that make Iowa Ideas a reality. Without them, this would not be possible. And so to our title sponsor, UFG, to our gold sponsors, ITC and Van Meter, to our silver sponsors, Iowa Economic Development Authority, the Employee Resource Group Consortium, to our bronze sponsors, Rockwell Collins, Alliant Energy, and our network break sponsor, NextBank. Thank you very much. If you haven't downloaded Attendify yet, I would encourage you to do so. That'll be the event app that has the complete schedule, as well as some of the ability to ask questions. There's a tab from the main menu that says Ask a Question. We'll be using that here in a few minutes, as well as we will have some runners that can hand a microphone to ask a question. And so please download the app. We want to ask as many questions as possible. We're excited about our keynotes, very knowledgeable, and so we're excited to have them. Iowa Ideas also is dependent on support from area community leaders. That's critically important for us. We work hard. We have many things. It's a long-standing relationship in the 135 years of existence, and when our community thrives, you know, we do well, and so we want to do everything that we can to help our community thrive. Here to speak for a couple minutes to give a quick welcome is Mayor Brad Hart. So if you could help me in welcoming Mayor Hart.
Thank you, Zach. Welcome to Cedar Rapids in the 2018 Iowa Ideas Conference. Cedar Rapids is Iowa's second largest and best city, and we're really happy you're here with us. Cedar Rapids is also very proud to observe Welcoming Week, to encourage and acknowledge all the many contributions immigrants and refugees bring to our communities and to our state. Welcoming Week, if you don't know, is a national annual celebration bringing people together through local events to celebrate the role communities have in becoming more welcoming to everyone. The Iowa Ideas Conference is an important part of that effort. Fostering a welcoming environment for all individuals, regardless of race, ethnicity, or place of origin, really enhances Cedar Rapids and the state's cultural fabric. It helps us with our economic growth, our global competitiveness, and the overall prosperity for current and future generations. Cedar Rapids is a great example of what can happen when a community welcomes others and people work together. Our slate was almost wiped clean by the 2008 flood. New ideas, perspectives, and collaborations happened that had never happened before. Cedar Rapids has really rebuilt itself since that flood. Our population has grown. We've increased our tax base by 35% to more than $11 billion. Things that we never thought would happen in Cedar Rapids have happened and continue to happen through the collaboration and sharing ideas and bringing everyone we can to the table. So I know you're going to learn a lot about this year's conference, so please share your ideas and your thoughts while you're here. And also while you're here, I hope you'll have time to enjoy our parks, our trails, the restaurants, even the nightlife. We have the year-round Nubo City Market. We also have Indian Creek Nature Center and so much more for you to see. Thanks to the Gazette for organizing and sponsoring this important event. The collaboration is not only important to Cedar Rapids, but it's important to all the communities where you live, and it's important for the entire state. So again, share your ideas. I hope you learn a lot and go back to your communities and help them move forward in exciting and dramatic ways. So thank you again for being here. Welcome to Cedar Rapids.
Thank you, Mayor, for your passion and everything you do to make Cedar Rapids a great place to live. I moved in a couple months after the flood, having lived in Iowa City, and I would echo the growth and everything that we've seen here is truly magnificent. We are going to move into the keynote portion of today, and I'm excited to welcome Director Beth Townsend from Iowa Workforce Development, Director Ryan Wise with the Iowa Department of Education, and Director Debi Durham from the Iowa Economic Development Authority, where she's the director there. So we have three directors joining us today. When we thought about the keynote, one of the topics and one of the things that we'd like to do with Iowa Ideas is to show the connections. And when you start to think about the different topics that we have here, we have a track on workforce, we have a track on healthcare, we have a track on education, we have a track on policy. And so there's a lot of connection points, and that the more that we get into planning this in our second year, it's like a stadium. And so the more that we get in to planning this, the more connections that we keep finding. This topic, Future Ready Iowa, was one of those for us. They're connections, and I think there are many ways to enter the talent pipeline, which Future Ready Iowa is all about addressing. And the exciting thing to me is you see from the early phases of childhood, early childhood development, all the way through folks being able to upskill, change careers, as well as the attraction of business here. And so I think that this makes the Future Ready Iowa topic a great one to be discussing today. By way of quick bios, and I'll jump to the super abbreviated version rather than the page long that I have here. Director Townsend heads the Iowa Workforce Development Department. She was unanimously appointed and confirmed by the unanimously confirmed, I'll get my facts right, unanimously confirmed by the Senate in 2015. Prior to that, she served as the director of the Iowa Civil Rights Commission and served in the Air Force Reserve and retired as a lieutenant colonel following 20 years of active and reserve duty. Director Durham, to her right, is a longtime economic development professional and a fun person to talk to about almost any topic. So we always love to have her in Cedar Rapids. Prior to joining the Iowa Economic Development Authority, Durham served as the president of the Siouxland Chamber of Commerce. And she has had many accolades in her time, but includes the Des Moines Business Record's Woman of Influence in 2016 as one of those. Director Ryan Wise is appointed the director of the Department of Education by former Governor Branstad in 2015, also 2015. And he leads with an emphasis on working together as an education system to make the schools into places where adults can collaborate and students can thrive. So welcome to all three of you. Director Townsend, I think you have the honor of going first.
I do, thank you.
Introduce the concept.
I'm going to make a couple of apologies when I get started. If you were at the Rotary Club meeting last week when I was here, these slides are going to look vaguely familiar to you, and you're going to hear some of the same information again. And number two, I cannot speak publicly when I'm sitting down. I think it's the military in me. That we were trained when you're speaking, you're on your feet. So I'm going to stand up for the while we whiz through these slides, because I want to give you the overall information, but I also want to leave time for you to hear from the two experts that we have up here on the stage, and also to be able to give you time to ask questions. We had a great discussion at the Rotary Club, so I'm hoping for some great questions in this event as well. So, where are we in Iowa in terms of our workforce? Well, as you know, we have historically low unemployment numbers, 2.6% in July. The August number will come out Friday morning. 2.6% translates to about 44,000 people in Iowa who are traditionally in our workforce and are currently unemployed. If you go to our iowajobbanks.gov website, which is an aggregator of all of the websites that post help wanted ads, this morning you would see there are over 60,000 jobs available in the state of Iowa currently. So we clearly have way more jobs than we have people to fill them. And that number has continued to decline all year. And so this is an issue that, you know, it's great to have a good economy, but we also need to make sure we have a skilled workforce. Labor participation rate in Iowa has always been very good. We were at one time second in the country. That we have moved down in the rankings, not because we've seen fewer people in our workforce, but because other states with the change in the economy have caught up with us. They've seen more people return to work than we've seen because they had more people who were on the sidelines before. So one of the things that we talk about a lot with our employers and what we hear around the state is that we don't have enough people to fill our middle-skilled jobs. And middle-skilled jobs are those jobs that are that require some type of post-secondary training, education, or certification, up to an associate's degree. And then a high-skilled job would be those jobs that require a bachelor's degree or higher. Low-skilled jobs don't require any type of education at all. So you could have a diploma and do the jobs, or you could be, have not completed your high school education and still be able to perform that job. So as you can see, we currently have about 54% of our jobs in Iowa are considered those middle-skilled jobs or jobs that require post-secondary training, education, or certification. And here's our gap. And these are new numbers. This may actually be different than the one I was able to share with you last week. But as you can see, we're producing about the number of high-skilled graduates that we need to fill those high-skilled jobs. The big gap is we have not enough middle-skilled workers and too many low-skilled workers. So what are we going to do to move those low-skilled workers up and into those middle-skilled jobs, which, by the way, pay more money, have more advancement opportunity, and are going to lead to a more sustainable career pathway. This is the breakdown of our demographics for our unemployment rate. Not different from around the country. Unfortunately, our minority rates are generally higher than our average rate. The Minority Unemployment and Outreach Standing Committee of the State Workforce Development Board is working on plans for how we can bring that number down. so that they'll be much more in line, and we can make sure that all of the job opportunities that are available across the state are available to all of our communities. There's often a question you'll hear around the state, is it a lack of people because we haven't had a great growth in population in several decades, or is it that they don't have enough skills? Well, looking at this survey of employers, they think it's a lack of skilled workers. It's not that they don't have enough applicants, although that is always a challenge as well. It's that they don't have enough who have the right skills. And if you remember that previous slide about the skills gap, that tracks right with that we have way more low-skilled workers than we have low-skilled jobs. We have way more middle-skilled jobs than we have middle-skilled workers. Disabled Iowans are our largest pool of potential employees in the state of Iowa. About 175,000 Iowans report having a disability. That's out of about a 1.67 million person workforce in the state of Iowa. 90% of those are employed in the workforce currently. The second largest pool of potential employees are returning citizens, or those who are coming out of correctional facilities. Iowa returns about 4,000 to 5,000 individuals back into society every single year. These are usually able-bodied individuals who are available for work. And so we need to figure out how we can do a better job of making sure that they take advantage of the time that they have in the correctional facility to get training, and learn new skills so that they won't return to a correctional facility, and we can get them into the workforce in a meaningful way. Obviously, with low unemployment, it's been much easier to have these conversations with employers and get them to open up and consider the idea of hiring ex-offenders. Of course, when people think about hiring an ex-offender, their fallback is always, well, I'm not going to hire an ex-murderer to work in my factory. Well, you're right, you're not, because the ex-murderer is not going to be getting out of jail. That's not the people that we're talking about. We're talking about primarily young men who make bad decisions related to drugs. That's overwhelmingly the number of people that are coming out of those facilities. So if we could train them and give them skills and give them hope and a job when they get out, that's going to go a long way to making sure that they stay on the right path upon their release. And if you track what those who are released having earned an apprenticeship, they earn $3,000 a year more than those who didn't complete an apprenticeship program. So we are working hard to try to, with the Department of Corrections, to expand the types and number of apprenticeship training opportunities in our correctional facilities across the state. So how do we close this skills gap, and what are we doing about it in the state of Iowa? Well, in a nutshell, we're doing a lot. There is so much going on. I don't have enough time to tell you all about it today. I'm going to try to give you a Reader's Digest version. But the biggest initiative we have right now to address this issue is Future Ready Iowa. And I will tell you, I go all around the country because they want me to come and talk to them about Future Ready Iowa. And the first thing they always say is, how did you get all these people to the table? How did you get business and education talking? How did you get government agencies and education and business talking together? Because in our states, education will have an initiative, or business and industry will have an initiative. Sometimes they'll work parallel, but often they are conflicting or competing. And that just denigrates their ability to make a change. Well, that's what's so transformational about Future Ready Iowa, is we got all these people at the table. We got the Debi Durhams and the Ryan Weisses in the world. We also got the Mary Andringas of Iowa, and Dan Houston, who was the co-chair, the CEO of Principal Financial. And we got Democrats and Republicans, and we got educators from all levels of education, and we got nonprofits, and we all worked together and came up with some strategic recommendations we're going to talk about later. So the goal of the Future Ready Iowa Act is to ensure that 70% of Iowans aged 25 to 64 have post-secondary training, education, or certification by 2025. That translates to about 127,000 plus Iowans that we need to upskill, educate, and train by 2025. This is where we are currently, about 58.4%. That's up 0.3% from the year before. This number comes from our labor shed studies. Are you all familiar with labor shed studies that are going on around the state? Those are great tools for our economic developers. They're conducted out of our labor market information group at Iowa Workforce Development. Debbie and I made an agreement earlier this year where we decided we wanted to be able to provide labor shed studies for the entire state because there is a cost to those studies, and unfortunately our smaller and rural areas could not afford to get those studies done often or not get them updated often enough for them to have workable, usable information. So we made a decision to commit some funds to be able to conduct labor shed studies in half the state one year and then half the state the next year, and then alternate back and forth so that economic developers across the state will have accurate, up-to-date information moving forward. So on the left side you'll see a breakdown of what that 58.4% comes from. And this is just an educational attainment county by county map. Not surprising, where we have our big regent universities are the counties that have the highest education attainment in the state. The lower southeast corner of the state, where you have Keokuk and Lee County, those traditionally have our highest rates of unemployment and some of our lowest rates of educational attainment. So there's a lot of opportunities around the state of Iowa to improve that number. And then this is a breakdown by race of where our educational attainment levels are. And we can provide, these slides I believe are available to you or will be available to you on the website, so I know I'm going pretty fast. So the Alliance got together and over the course of a year from October of 16 to October of 17 arrived at 5 strategic recommendations they made to Governor Reynolds. She started off as the co-chair, as the lieutenant governor, and then when she became governor, she remained as the co-chair. So we made recommendations to her, which she then accepted, and these are kind of the foundational recommendations moving forward. And the first one involved the Last Dollar Scholarship Program, the Future Ready Iowa Grant Program, and the Employer Innovation Fund. Now, the Future Ready Iowa Act passed the legislature this last session unanimously. There were not many bills that passed the legislature unanimously this year, but Future Ready Iowa was one of them. And it was signed into law on April 3rd, 2018 by Governor Reynolds. And that act basically provided some money to help us build the infrastructure so that community colleges, who are going to be the primary recipients of the Last Dollar Scholarship money, could get their infrastructure in place and be able to have time to recruit students into these scholarship programs. So it basically makes up the difference between the cost of a community college tuition and fees and non-repayable financial aid. So it will close that gap for individuals who have a financial gap and hopefully incentivize people then to go into these training programs, whether that's an AA degree or a certification program. And the programs have to be in a high-demand career. Those high-demand careers are going to be designated by the State Workforce Development Board. They took the first step in designating those careers at our last meeting, and we hope to have that list finalized at our November meeting. The Future Ready Iowa Grant Program is based on a program in Indiana called You Can Go Back, where it provides a stipend, if you will, to adults who have earned at least 50% of their bachelor degree credits and are going to go back and complete that program in a high-demand career over the course of their remaining 2 years or so. And then the Employer Innovation Fund is unique to Iowa. There isn't anybody else in the country that's doing this. And this is a genesis of what businesses were saying and local communities. What can we do today, or what can we do working together to address local workforce programs? So we came up with an idea that we would have a fund, and local groups could designate careers that they needed within their local area. They could raise money privately to support individuals who are going to get training or certification or education in that program, and they would have more flexibility with that money because they could provide it for equipment or books or childcare or transportation or they could address needs that were identified as barriers to individuals in their community going back and completing their education. And then the state would have a fund where we would have matching funds for the local group. So if the local group raised $25,000, they could apply for a matching fund. Depending on the available amounts in that fund and how many grant applications they were, they could hopefully get at least, or get maximum, a match dollar for that. So they've created a program that now is going to provide $50,000 worth of support for students in their local area to address a problem that they have identified that they want to work on. And now Ryan's going to take over talking about the education recommendations.
All right, so I will be brief and stay seated. The second recommendation focuses on strengthening Iowa's skilled workforce and expanding opportunities. And the component of this that I would like to highlight is Iowa's focus on reducing the need for remediation in post-secondary education, what's properly referred to as developmental education. When students graduate from high school, move on to community college or four-year university, and are not fully prepared for the rigors of an entry-level course. So they have to go back and do developmental work to build those foundational skills. In some cases, it's very necessary when students are maybe new to the country, still learning English, but for others, it can be a drain on time, and it can be a drain on money. And so our 15 community colleges and the Iowa Department of Education, our Community Colleges and Workforce Preparation Division, have worked over the last year to come up with a set of innovative strategies to really reduce the need for developmental or remedial education, building on work that was already happening in some cases in some community colleges across Iowa. So they're looking at things like a co-requisite approach, in which students who need additional developmental support are also actually earning credit at the same time. The department over the last several months has produced 3 really good reports that provide both the data on this and show that over the last 5 years, we're seeing a significant reduction in the number of students who are needing remedial work when they enter college. And it also goes into detail on strategies that our colleges are adopting. So I encourage you to go to educateiowa.gov and look at those developmental education reports. We also wrote a great story featuring one of our community colleges, North Iowa Area Community College, and some of the work they're doing to ensure our students are prepared. We also looked at what high schools can do in working in advance to ensure upon graduation our students truly have the skills to be college and career ready. So the third strategy we'll go into really cuts across all 3 of our areas of work. And Beth alluded to it earlier. One of the things that's most exciting about Future Ready Iowa is that it brings together 3 historically siloed areas of workforce development, economic development, and education. And it really infuses all 3 of these areas, and it comes together in our schools. And so there are a few things happening with this strategy, specifically around work-based learning and apprenticeships. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Durham to talk a little bit about the work of IEDA, and then I'll talk about how we see some of these things playing out in schools.
Well, thank you, both Beth and Ryan. So to begin with, at the hallmark of our Iowa Economic Development Strategy, it really is all about raising the standard of living for Iowans, right? So all of the programs that we do and any of the workforce training programs that we're looking at is really to bring those skill sets up to where families can have living wages. And we have been a champion of apprenticeships long before it became vogue. You know, now everybody's talking about apprenticeships at the national level, but we've been doing it for a long time in Iowa when the legislature said this is so important that we're going to earmark $3 million a year annually to the development of apprenticeship programs. And the reason why is this. It is because, one is there's over 1,000 apprenticeship programs already in existence, but the other thing, it's an extremely adaptable training program. So just think about Iowa has the first beer brewing apprenticeships in the country, right? Because we do know how to do fermentation in Iowa. And so that's how adaptable it is, because even the brewers were saying this is a craft, this is a skill set, and we need specialized training for that. So we worked with the Department of Labor. But the other thing I love about apprenticeships is it's really almost like a covenant relationship between your employee and your employer, right? Because it, one, raises the wages, it does exactly what we want to do, but there is an expectation on both parties' parts entering into this agreement, right? Apprenticeship can go anywhere from 3 years to 5 years, depending on what kind of training it is. And so the employer makes a commitment to that employee that I am going to invest in you, I am going to raise your skill sets. In return, here's what we're going to do for you as far as escalating your pay scale. And that's why we like it. I mean, since 2011, we've seen an increase of about 70% of our apprenticeship programs. In 2017 alone, we had 72 new programs brought on. And so we really appreciate it. And so what we like is now we're even looking at the pre-apprenticeship programs. How do you really create a pipeline even for those? And looking at it, whether it's technology training, I mean, we could do a lot more with manufacturing, quite frankly, with apprenticeships. If you think about it, you know, we always think of apprenticeships as trades because they have perfected those guilds of old, right? But in Germany, which is a manufacturing powerhouse, they've been using the apprenticeship modeling for decades. And so we believe there's a great opportunity to increase it there. The other part, though, is internships. Oh, and the other one I would also say, because you talked about correctional. So we actually, our correctional facilities are running apprenticeship programs while people are incarcerated to make sure that they have that validated skill set when they re-enter society. But the other thing is the internship program. And again, we've been running that program for a long time. We've had about 500 employees since we started running it. We do both STEM internships and our traded cluster internship programs that we've actually gone to work for Iowa employers. Because the interesting thing is we have to do a better job of connecting our students to our backyard. There, and just right here in the Cedar Rapids region, in this corridor alone, there is so many exciting things happening in companies of all sizes, but we just don't tell anybody about it, right? Particularly our students. So there was a survey done, and I think it was interesting, that it says 27% of our students are going to leave the state, and there's a certain amount of that, right? Everybody thinks the grass is greener somewhere else. Then they come to realize that's not true, right? Or, you know, they start having children and then they want free babysitting, so they come home, or whatever the motivation is. But it's really 27%. Now think about this. This is actually a very high statistic. 27% of our students really don't know. And so we have to connect with that 27% to say, let us help you make that decision and let's sway it towards Iowa, because we're going to connect you with these great companies. So you not only can live big here, but you can have really incredible opportunities from an employment point of view. So, and then think about it, you know, you can actually run the world from here, so why wouldn't you want to be here? Is that all I'm supposed to say? I think I'm good.
All right.
Am I handing it back to you? Okay, we're good.
I have one handy.
Yes.
Okay. So in addition to what Debbie mentioned, there are other things that are happening to support this work in schools. The one I would like to highlight is work-based learning. So opportunities for students in their courses to really engage in projects and learning opportunities in the real world, out working on hands-on projects with businesses. One of the things I'm most excited about in this area is the development of Iowa's online virtual clearinghouse for work-based learning. This was created in the governor's first executive order, EO1, that set up a work-based learning advisory council. We are meeting for the first time on October 5th, and it has more than 50 members, half of which come from education, from schools, and half of which are from business and industry. And the idea here is that by July 1, 2019, we're going to create an online clearinghouse of work-based learning opportunities, so that regardless of whether you're a student here in the Cedar Rapids Community School District or out in one of our more rural school districts in the state of Iowa, you will have access to high-quality, real-world learning opportunities. So I'm excited to see that come together to provide more equitable access for all of Iowa's students. The next strategy that we wanted to talk about, strategy 4, preparing students and adult learners for a changing world. So there's a lot in this strategy. You know, to me, this really gets at the heart of education. Are we providing relevant, meaningful, and engaging instruction for all of our students? And so that starts with rigorous standards, that we have clear and high expectations of what we want all of our students to know and be able to do at the end of each course. And it's also about ensuring that our students are college and career ready. In Iowa, that means that students have the content knowledge and skills they need to be successful, but also that they have transition skills, that they can go from elementary to middle school to high school, and then on to post-secondary education and the workforce. Also that they have learning skills, that they can work with colleagues, that they can do research, that they can use technology. And then finally, that they have leadership skills, that they can advocate for themselves and their community. And so we are heavily focused on ensuring that our students have those 21st century learning skills that are going to set them up to be ready for the workforce. The last thing I'll mention in this strategy is really around high quality career and technical education. Iowa passed a significant piece of legislation about 2 years ago that really redesigned how we approach career and technical education in Iowa to ensure that they are, again, rigorous, high-quality programs that are focused on meeting the needs of employers and ensuring our students have those high-demand skills. We're also increasing opportunities for students to access these courses. This coming summer, the legislature has appropriated $600,000 to allow schools to offer joint enrollment, college classes, to high school students during the summer for the first time. So we're seeing a growth in opportunities for students to take on these courses and be more prepared for the workforce.
And the last recommendation was really about how can we engage the business community in all these activities, because when I grew up and was going to college, you know, education and business didn't talk to each other. It was basically you went to college, you got your degree, and then the idea was the employer's going to hire you and train you how to do the job. So we don't really need to be very aligned or talking to each other. Well, we know now that that's just not a model that's going to work moving forward or solve this skills gap as quickly as we need to. And the Future Ready Iowa Alliance was primarily business people on the alliance, and it was very important to them that they be in a position to continue to have access to and talk with and work with education, because this was new ground. And we wanted to make sure, the alliance wanted to make sure that that would be part of the recommendations moving forward, was that businesses would be more engaged with education, education would be more open to those conversations with business. So we knew very early on that Future Ready Iowa was not going to be successful unless it was implemented at the grassroots level. This was never intended and is not intended to be a government-driven, we're going to tell you these 5 things you're going to do. It's really an a la carte menu. It really is for local groups to say, these are the areas we want to work on. We're going to use a little bit of recommendation 2, we're going to use a little bit of recommendation 4, and this is our plan. And this is what we're going to commit to, and this is how we're going to get started. So the summits are designed to get those local groups talking to each other. And the thing that I'm so excited about was our first 13 summits were scheduled not in our metro areas, but in our rural areas. We have since announced 5 more, including one in Ottumwa that we announced today. And these are the it's just been overwhelming, the number of people that have signed up to attend the summits. I would strongly encourage you to sign up. They're free. There's one in Cedar Rapids, and you can see, I can't remember exactly what the date is, and that's way too small for my eyes to read. It coming up, and I would encourage you to attend, because this is a way for you to network, meet the people that want to talk about these from their own perspective, and how can we work together to solve this problem. We are going to have, the agendas for each summit are a little bit different, because each local area is a little bit different, and we're allowing the local communities to design the agenda to talk about the things that they feel they need to talk about in their community. So each one's going to be have a little bit different flavor. What we're doing at Workforce Development is providing a playbook for each summit. It will be specifically designed for that particular summit, and it will have labor market information that applies to that specific area. So it's hopefully going to allow the local community to make data-driven decisions on how to address their local needs. That number's a little outdated. As of this morning, we had 1,938 Iowans signed up. Many of them are sold out, so sign up early, but not often. And this is just a quick, as Debbie mentioned, Iowa has been one of the national leaders in terms of the amount of apprenticeship programs we have and the varied programs that we have. Only about 50% of these programs are in trades. So that gives you an idea of how businesses have embraced the apprenticeship model in the state of Iowa, and this program continues to grow. Okay, maybe, oh, whoops, I want to go back one more. Can I go? So Brandon Bastide was formerly the vice president of the Gallup Organization Workforce and Education, and he came to speak at the Future Ready Iowa Summit in April, and this is how he started his speech, was a recognition that Iowa is doing it better than anybody else in the country, and it's because we're working together and we're working collaboratively. Workforce development is a bipartisan, nonpartisan issue. This issue is going to exist today, tomorrow, November 1st, December 1st, January 1st. That's why this work is so important, and that's why it's so gratifying that so many people around the state are working together to solve this problem, because they recognize we have to do something differently, we have to do something now, we have to do it together. And so I think these summits are going to be a great way to kick off that work. That's it.
All right, well, thank you, all three of you directors. I'll start with a couple of my questions just because I have the microphone, and then I encourage everyone else to ask questions, and we'll get to those in a couple seconds. Some of the data that we're seeing, the educational attainment showed a 0.3 increase, year over year. I believe the goal is 70% by 2025. First, what's the magic of 70% in 2025, but then additionally, I would believe the numbers are going to have to move a lot faster to get anywhere close to that goal.
Well, the 0.3% is what our current efforts are producing. So we're seeing less than 1% move, of the needle move each year, given if we just keep doing what we're doing. And so that's why we need to take a different approach to move that needle faster. The 70% comes from, there was a Georgetown study in 2014 or 15 that projected that 68% of Iowa's jobs in 2025 would be middle-skilled jobs, so up from the 54% we're at currently. And so Governor Branstad looked at that, and he wanted to be a little bit aspirational, so he rounded 68 to 70. That's where the 70% came from. But it was based on that initial study from Georgetown saying, these are where your jobs are going to be by 2025, and that's so you need to get there.
What do you see, Director Durham, that's at stake, if Iowa doesn't meet this goal? I mean, in terms of attracting new businesses, but also, I would say, retaining companies that are here.
Well, I think what's at stake is our future, to be quite honest, right? Because right now, when I first started doing economic development, and I've been doing this gig for longer than I want to admit, it started out, and there was a chart. Is that chart on there? If we go to the next, yeah, the skill. Well, no, it was a chart from Site Selector. So when I started this business, it was all about location, 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 right? Here it is. And so now everything's turned upside down, right? Site selectors are saying we're going to start with labor. And we have to start with labor. And economies are going to ebb and flow, right? So, I mean, obviously, we're enjoying a very robust economy. Iowans are working. We're seeing wages go up. But we also know that someday there will be another recession. It's just the cycle of the economy. I'm not predicting when that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be anytime soon, but it's coming. But what you have to keep in mind is this population issue. So Iowa has a very aging population, right? And nearly 1/3 of our population is nearing retirement retirement age. And if you look at it, there's a statistic that talking every day in America, 10,000 baby boomers exit the workforce. In Iowa, that's about 100 a day. So put that in perspective. And then if you look at these plant floors, and manufacturing being our largest gross state product, and that's, of course, where you're going to see so much of this middle skill set being driven, particularly it's going to be, I think, healthcare, IT, and manufacturing. When you look at it, we have to fix that equation. And so for us, it's making sure the skills are there, but it's also equally as important is we have to grow Iowa's population. I mean, we just have to do that because it's those two things together.
In terms of Iowa College Aid released a report this week, and it showed the number of FAFSA filings went down. There were several concerning trends in there. A drop of about a third in Iowa's college population from 2010 to 2017. Is there concern, some of the battling that's going on, which is some of the rhetoric around higher education, that the cost of it, but also just the funding that goes from the state to higher education. Is there a concern that that dialogue is kind of trickling down and saying, this is too expensive, this is out of reach? What needs to change in terms of that attainability so that more folks, to reverse that trend?
I think that's a question for the director of the Department of Education.
So I'd say a couple things to that. So, certainly funding and costs are always concerns. It's a reality of the nature of education. I would say from a department perspective, we're really focused on preparation. So ensuring that students know what's available and that they're prepared to take on those opportunities. And so, a number of the things that I focused on are really geared toward that. And I know our schools are focused on that as well.
Zach, I was just going to say real quickly, I think also that's what's great about the Future Ready Iowa program is it's going to expand the knowledge base of parents and students about different opportunities, because not every kid's designed to go to a four-year school and drop $200,000 to get an education. And they don't need to. I mean, there are a lot of great certification programs you can get in less than 12 months, associate's degrees you can get in less than 2 years that are not going to lead to that kind of debt, but are going to lead to some highly skilled, highly paying jobs. And so we need to do a better job in Iowa of educating our parents and our students about those opportunities that are an alternative to a four-year degree.
Actually, I was going to just pick up on that too. I'm not discouraged by that statistic because I think for the first time is maybe we're all seeing the light that not everybody needs to be in a four-year degree program, right? Our high schools always roll up the statistic as how many of our students are going to four-year degree. What we really need to know is how many are in that four-year degree a year from there, right? Because that's the number we're not tracking. We have got to do a better job of tracking these students because I think a perfect opportunity for us is when that kid has decided a four-year degree is not for me and that family, to them we send something and said, but yeah, did you know that an electrician makes this? Did you know that a technician, because I would tell you these manufacturing floors, these are tech floors that are manufacturing products. These are not grandfather's manufacturing floors of old, that you could make $70,000, and upwards with full benefits. So I'm encouraged by that maybe we're finally moving that dialogue that it's not and shouldn't be an automatic four-year degree program.
And just to add one final point to that, I spend a lot of time in schools, and when I'm in there, especially in career and technical education classes, the ones that are really well done have students who think they may be going straight to the workforce, some who may be going on to a 2-year, and some who may be going on to a 4-year, and they're all working on projects together. And they see all of the doors and pathways. And when those courses are taught well and when they're rigorous, that opens options for kids. And so I think that's one of the most important things to keep in mind.
I'll ask one more question. Since it's Iowa Ideas, we like to make news. And so one of the questions that I have is, if you could ask the legislature for one thing, they're now the genie that will grant your wish, what would you ask for when it comes to advancing Future Ready Iowa? What aspect of the project would you, what piece would you want them to address and grant?
Well, obviously, I would want them to fund the Last Dollar Scholarship Grant and Employer Innovation Fund. So appropriate money so that those programs that will actually provide financial assistance to students going into high demand careers have the ability to take advantage of the program.
And I would say I would like to see more money for apprenticeship, but I also want to see us do marketing of our state as far as doing a better job of connecting opportunities here as we grow the population. So we need to start putting more money into our marketing fund.
What would you market, just quickly?
Well, I mean, one thing is quality of life. You know, and let me just give an example. I mean, you know, Toyota, we were a finalist for Toyota, and it was going to happen right here in your backyard. And Toyota knew you didn't have the workforce, and Iowa didn't have the workforce. They were not concerned about that, right? Because they knew that this was a region who could attract the workforce. And so certified sites are great, and I am a champion of that, and we need that to be development ready, but it is equally as important that you build communities in which people want to live and our kids want to stay. And there's no greater example than what you've done right here in the Cedar Rapids region of really showcasing that.
Well, thank you. You're popular here too. Director Wise?
Well, you know, I would agree with both of those. I would also say, you know, these recommendations fit together as a package. So, you know, my hope is that we don't lose sight of the vision, of that big goal that by 2025, 70% of Iowans in the workforce have education or training beyond high school, but that we look beyond that as well. So what's it going to take to ensure that we're focused on creating world-class schools, that we're giving our students the foundational skills they need to be successful so that our youngest learners are able to enter the workforce beyond the 2025 goal as well.
Excellent. I think at this point in time, we'll move to some questions, and we can see them coming up on the screen. So I'll just jump to the top one. Will Iowa ban the box on employment applications anytime soon?
Well, I expect that the Minority Unemployment and Outreach Standing Committee recommendations will hopefully be approved by the State Workforce Development Board in November. And one of the recommendations they made based on the listening tours that we had around the state, talking with minority communities and underrepresented, and just Iowans at large, was we need to make it easier for those who have a record to get past that application stage. Now, ban the box is kind of a broad description, but I do think that you'll see some movement in terms of let's at least give everybody a fair opportunity to get past that application stage and let them explain in person, you know, what happened to them, what decisions they made, what corrections they've made, and where they're headed, because that's going to be more likely to get them into the door and get them hired. And usually it also brings down that fear and intimidation level that employers have about hiring those who have a record when they can meet and talk to somebody on a one-on-one basis. So I would expect to see hopefully some, what that'll look like I'm not sure, but I think there will be some movement on that.
Excellent. All right, we'll jump to the direct-to-care workforce is a high-demand, high-growth occupation that Iowans rely on and need more of. To what extent is Future Ready Iowa focused on it?
Well, healthcare is certainly going to be one of the high-demand careers, so it would be one of the programs that would be available to the Last Dollar Scholarship Program or the grant program. Now, I will say a CNA program would not qualify for the Last Dollar Scholarship, most likely, because that's not considered a credit program. But an LPN and an RN programs or any other of our healthcare-related jobs would be. So we need, you know, we know we're going to have limited money, so we're trying to focus on where we can have the biggest impact. And we've got a lot of industries that have similar high-demand needs, and so, but certainly healthcare will be one of them.
Excellent. Where are the youth, you know, the K-12 age folks engaged as thinking stakeholders as part of this? Or do they have seats at the table? What role do they play?
Sorry, I was looking at a different question than the one you asked.
I jumped to the second one just because it's easier to see. I said, where are the youth, the K-12, the students? What voice do they have in some of the planning of this? How are you engaging their feedback as part of the process?
Right, so I think students are critical stakeholders in this. I also come at this from the view of a parent of a 7th grader and a 4th grader in Des Moines Public Schools. We're really privileged in Iowa to have a student member of the State Board of Education who provides a really important perspective of how do these policy decisions play out in classrooms. Iowa also has a pretty dynamic student youth group that is statewide, ISLE, that brings up every year to legislators their perspectives on issues. I meet with that group as well. So there are regular avenues, I think, for students to communicate their perspective on these issues as well.
Well, and the other thing I would think about is right now you're really seeing more engagement than I've ever seen before between the private sector businesses into the school system, the K through 12 system. I mean, I look at the Iowa Big program, from right here. I mean, and the stuff you're doing at Nubo. I look at the Waukee Apex program. I look at the new Career Academy that Sioux City just launched. It's kind of like when you go to these things, it's like, I want to do an education do-over. These are amazing. And it's because it's all about connectivity to something that's real, right? What are the opportunities out there? And I think it's making a huge difference. So they are actually more engaged, I think, in that dialogue than they've ever been before.
One other example is we have a renewed focus in Iowa on computer science, and that has been a push of the legislature as well. We had a couple of task forces looking at increasing the reach and rigor of computer science in Iowa in every school. We had a number of students actually serve on that task force to provide their perspective on, what do they need, what are they getting, and where can we fill gaps.
And so let me just pick up on that, because we did this real research project of what's the next emerging markets in the biospace for Iowa, and there's 4 emerging markets we identified. But what was startling to me, because sometimes things just happen and you're not aware of them, was how much ground we have lost over the years on actually computer science. Now this is more at the 4-year kind of engineering, but you have to have the pipeline that's feeding into that. I mean, Missouri's a beautiful state, but they should not beat us on computer science majors, I can tell you that. And so knowing that what you guys are doing to increase that pipeline, we're gonna see that change, but these things don't just change on a dime. I mean, it takes a thoughtful process, but certainly in the next 5 years, I think we're gonna at least meet those demands.
Excellent. All right, we'll see the next question here. I'm going to jump down to number 3. Will you clarify the unemployment statistic of 2.6%? Are these all sustainable jobs that provide a living wage and benefits, health insurance, retirement, et cetera?
Well, the 2.6 is the unemployment rate that is determined by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as a part of the Department of Labor. And it's based on the number of available jobs in Iowa, regardless, and they have to be, I believe, full-time. These are full-time jobs. Now, what their wage is or what their benefit level is, there's no, as I understand it, minimum floor for that. So it's a full-time jobs. They take those openings, they compare it to the number of people who are eligible to be or who consider themselves to be in your workforce. They subtract out those who are collecting unemployment benefits. That percentage then is the unemployment percentage. I am sure there is way, way, way more complicated stuff going on than that, but that's my Reader's Digest version understanding. So the 2.6% unemployment rate are just those Iowans who want to work but are not currently in the workforce.
Thank you.
And so that's why it's so important we do these labor shed studies, because the labor shed study gives us actually more, if you will, granular context of what really we have in the workforce. So that's saying that people that are employed, most likely, are they underemployed? And if they're underemployed, what would it take to get them, whether it's training or whether it's a commuting issue or whatever it is, where we could move them? And so from a marketplace, there is no better labor data in the nation than I've seen other than this labor shed. And I'm so glad that Beth and I agreed to take that burden away from communities to fund it, because it's pretty pricey to do because the data is so rich. So we're just going to do that as a community service.
All right. Well, thank you for that. In terms of a lot of folks are struggling with transportation to get to the job they're qualified for, or they're interviewing for, and just even to add on to this, how do you help people learn that they may not be very far away from adding a skill that unlocks a whole new set of doors?
Well, transportation is certainly an issue that is identified in all areas and by all groups, whether that's businesses or people trying to get jobs. And so I believe that transportation will certainly be one of those areas that local communities will try to address. And I think it's going to have to be addressed at the local level. We do have programs available that in some of the metro areas like Ticket to Work, where we can provide bus tickets to individuals who need rides to work. But again, that's limited by where the bus actually goes and how close it gets to where you work or where you live. So it's certainly an issue that we need to address. That would probably be maybe a program that the Employer Innovation Fund could be used for by a local group. Maybe they want to provide, you know, a third shift bus that's going to pick people up from a certain location, take them to work, bring them back every single, or Monday through Friday, and maybe they raise some money to do that. So transportation is definitely an issue, and certainly an issue that's being discussed.
For some of those innovation fund ideas, you know, this is an ideas conference and trying to come up with new ideas. How do you get those? What is the process in terms of, does it require a public-private partnership? What is it? What are the requirements around those?
Well, we're in the process of writing those administrative rules right now. Director Weiss and myself and some others. So we're working on what that's going to look like, and since we don't have any funds, it's hard to really know exactly what rules to write, because you need to somewhat tailor those to the resources that are available in the program. But I would say, and we want the ideas to come from the communities. So it may address childcare, which is also a huge issue for people trying to get in or move up in the workforce. So maybe they can address childcare, or maybe they can address, we want to provide equipment to individuals going into these high demand careers, because some of them, like welding or the trades, require a certain level of equipment that most students can't financially afford. So we'll hopefully, you know, it's really what the community wants to do, raise the money privately, and then be able to show how it's going to be distributed, and it's going to go directly to supporting an individual in a high demand career.
And we do know that there are employers out there that are doing transportation, right? So doing some subsidization. I think Wells Dairy is in the process, that they haven't already started it. And, you know, most likely they're working it out with an MPO. I mean, as far as some kind of subsidization for their employees, I'm sure that there's a cost share for everyone involved, but I think you're going to see more and more of that. And we need to see more and more of that.
Excellent. All right. In terms of questions, if Future Ready does not address CNAs, home care workers, et cetera, because the jobs don't meet the FR criteria, that's an acronym I'm not totally familiar on the fly, then what is Iowa's plan to meet the critical challenge?
Well, I would assume, like CNAs, truck driving is also a non-credit program, but also a huge need in the state of Iowa. So I would anticipate that CNA, truck drivers, and those non-credit programs maybe could be addressed in the second round of Future Ready Iowa funding. We always said in the Air Force, you know, flexibility is the key to air power. And I think that applies so well to workforce development and the Future Ready Iowa Act. We're going to start doing something, but what we've learned from other states that have similar type programs, you're going to make tweaks, you're going to make changes, you're going to address things that you didn't address the first time. Maybe the legislature will decide that they want to provide sufficient funds to be able to pay for those non-certificate programs. We are not opposed to that. We're just saying we've got to prioritize to some extent, and we're trying to prioritize starting with credit programs and then maybe working our way back.
But just because it's not a credit program through that, it's still an apprenticeship program. So they can still apply through the apprenticeship program. There's, in fact, there's a really robust manufacturing mechatronics program that does include that. And and we even have apprenticeship programs for truck driving. So, so there are other training programs, and those do have a credential, but it's a credential through the apprenticeship model.
And one additional piece I would add, we're doing some exciting work statewide on sector partnerships. So bringing together employers and industries and educators around specific areas like healthcare, like IT, to really work through these as an industry and think about, okay, how do we meet these challenges? How do we build upon stackable credentials? And how do we address local demands and needs? And so that's one approach that I think is getting at the question as well.
Well, and that was a good plug for the 1:15 session that I'm hosting on that exact topic.
Great.
So,
perfect.
Thank you.
So stay tuned.
And so I'll go to one last question.
Could I ask or address the question I saw that I really wanted to address?
Go for it, please.
So one of the questions was, what is IWD doing to actually make a difference in terms of connecting employers with ex-offenders? Well, the answer is we're doing a lot. So we have started working directly with the Department of Corrections. We have 4 workforce advisors who work full-time in the correctional facilities around the state of Iowa. We're in the process of hiring a coordinator to coordinate those efforts. We also have applied for and received grants from the Department of Labor that will help expand and increase the number of apprenticeship opportunities in our correctional facilities. We have put together a group around Central Iowa. Oh, I know. We have the standing committee for the offender reentry. That's part of the State Workforce Development Board. That arose out of our work on the Minority Unemployment Committee. We went to talk to individuals in correction facilities and realized that that was such a huge issue. It needed its own standing committee, its own direction. And in that committee, we want to make sure that we are talking to employers, that we are educating those within our correctional facilities, and then we're connecting those two. We also, the committee decided at the last meeting that we want to hold in April a statewide summit that will do exactly that, that will bring employers in, educate them about these programs, introduce to them, and get them to talk to and meet with individuals who have come out successfully from the facilities and see what it is we're talking about and kind of dispel that myth around hiring ex-offenders. So look for that in April, but there's a lot going on in this area between the Department of Corrections and IWD, and then we're also working with community colleges and the Department of Education to make sure we're providing educational opportunities for those who need their high school diploma or maybe ESL type classes.
Excellent. Well, I know we're at time. It's just shortly after 1 o'clock. I'd like to thank Directors Wise, Director Durham, and Director Townsend for the conversation this afternoon. For those, we will start our next round of sessions at 1:15. I appreciate your attention and enjoy the afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.